How's it going, everybody? Daner here with North Central Coins, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the most rare and valuable coins in Canada. Today we're going to be taking a look at 5 rare Canadian dollar coins that, if identified correctly, could make you some big money. Every single one of the coins that we discussed today, although extremely rare, is not impossible to find, and in this video we will explore each of these valuable pieces of currency and delve into why they hold such incredible value in Canadian numismatics. Additionally, we will discuss any distinguishing and identifying features, their significance among collectors, and also the potential value if you happen to own or find a legitimate example. Before I do get into this, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you can stay up to date with my new content as it is being released. And then without any further ado, what do you say we take a look at 5 rare Canadian dollar coins worth some insane money? Let's get it, guys. The Voyager dollar was minted in Canada from 1935 until 1986. It originally contained 80% silver until the year 1968, when a smaller nickel version was introduced and circulated until the year 1987, when it was succeeded by the iconic loonie. Despite its discontinuation, Voyager dollars actually maintained legal tender status. In the year 1970, the Canadian Mint marked a significant milestone with the issuance of its inaugural commemorative nickel dollar. This special coin was crafted to honor the 100th anniversary of Manitoba's entry into the Canadian Confederation. The commemorative dollar showcases a design by renowned Canadian artist Raymond Taylor featuring the prairie crocus, which holds the distinction of being the provincial flower of Manitoba. Raymond Taylor's artistic contribution to this commemorative coin captures the essence of Manitoba's natural heritage and emphasizes the symbolic significance of the prairie crocus. As a celebrated Canadian artist, Taylor skillfully translated the beauty of this provincial flower onto this coin, adding a touch of cultural and regional identity to the numismatic landscape. The issuance of this commemorative nickel dollar stands as a testament to the rich history and artistic diversity encapsulated within Canadian coinage. Now let's briefly go over countermarked or counterstamped coins. A countermarked, punchmarked, or counterstamped coin refers to a coin that has been marked or stamped with an additional symbol or impression after its original production during circulation. While this practice is now obsolete, it served various purposes historically. One reason for countermarking was currency reform, where existing coins would be marked with a new value following a change in the currency system, which could extend the lifespan of the coins rather than recalling and replacing them. Additionally, foreign coins might be countermarked to be recognized as legal tender or accepted currency within a specific region. For example, the Mexican pillar dollar was actually quite popular in Canada before the introduction of its decimalized currency system, so I would not doubt that in some regions they may have countermarked these pillar dollars. Countermarking could also have political motivations, with a new state or regime showcasing its authority by countermarking coins issued by the previous state. The term countermark is often associated with manual punching onto a coin using a punch and a hammer or a primitive hand-operated machine. In contrast, a counterstamp is applied by a die and machine to an existing coin, with the use of counterstamps typically requiring authorization from a local or national government. An example of this authorization could be in post-World War II Germany, where some of the coins were actually defaced and the swastika removed and a countermark or counterstamp added so that they could still be continued to be used in everyday transactions, especially after the war when there is a huge need for coins. The term punchmark is also commonly used when referring to the earliest Indian silver coins. These are coin-like pieces of metal with a standard weight bearing various symbols that are applied with punches, resulting in what is known as punch-marked coins. Now, the GAN counterstamped Canadian 1970 dollar coins are unique numismatic pieces that were created in commemoration of the death of Gamal Abdul Nasser, the president of Egypt, in the year 1970. Approximately 1,000 of these counterstamps were applied to Manitoba dollars by the Arban Vancouver community. The counterstamp features the inscription GAN 1918-70, enclosed within an oval. This distinctive marking pays tribute to Gamal Abdel Nasser, noting the years of his birth, 1918, and his death in 1970. This counterstamp serves as both a historical and memorializing element, adding a layer of significance to the Canadian dollar coins from the year 1970. The extremely limited production of these counterstamp coins makes them both intriguing and collectible items for enthusiasts and numismatists of historical events. Now, to identify this GAN counterstamp, what you want to do is flip over to the obverse of the coin. It should be rather large and obvious, but it will be located to the right-hand side and in some cases making contact with her chin. The overall mintage for the 1970 Canadian commemorative Manitoba dollar is 4,140,058, and as I mentioned earlier, only 1,000 of these counterstamp coins were ever made. The 1970 nickel dollars are composed of 99.9% nickel. They have a weight of 15.62 grams, a diameter of 32.13 millimeters, and a thickness of 2.62 millimeters. The obverse was designed and engraved by Arnold Mockin and Walter Ott, and the reverse was designed and engraved by Raymond Taylor and Walter Ott. The edge of the coin is reeded, it is magnetic, and it has a diaxis in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian, British, and Australian coins. Now, in terms of the value for the 1970 nickel dollars, they aren't super valuable on the low end. If you find a regular 1970 Manitoba commemorative, it's worth pretty much face value if it is beat up and worn. It can be worth around $3.50 for an MS-60, and its maximum value is probably around $100 for an MS-67. Now, if you can identify that GAN counterstamp on the obverse of the coin, it's not going to make it a holy grail and you aren't going to be able to retire from this coin, but I would say that you can get anywhere from $5 to $10 for one of these, even if it is pretty beat up and worn. It has a really cool story and people will probably want to add these to their collection, and for all we know, the value could increase as time goes on. Now, as we start to get into the mint state range, it can be worth around $35 for an MS-62. Now, if you compare that to the regular 1970 without the counterstamp, that's only worth around $3.70. So this thing is worth more than 10 times more. The maximum value listed for this coin currently is $151 for an MS-64 example, but that isn't a terrible thing, because if you were able to buy a huge lot of 1970 dollars and even find like 5 of these things, you can still turn a really good profit if any of them score in the mint state range. And even if you find a couple of them that are pretty beat up and worn, you will be able to make more than their face value. I guarantee you, if anyone offered one of these to me that is beat up and worn for around $5, I would probably want to buy it just because it has such a cool story associated with it, and there were only 1,000 of them that were created. But you definitely want to make sure that it is legitimate. If you were to find one, I would suggest taking it to your coin shop, let them give it a little look, and they will probably tell you whether it is legitimate or not. But chances are, if it does have that counter punch mark, it is probably one of these GAN 1970 dollars. Now, even though it says it's only worth around $150 for an MS-64 example, if you were able to find one and it scored any higher, you'd probably see some nice price jumps. You could easily be talking $1,000 coin or more if it did score in that MS-66 or MS-67 region. This is definitely a good one to look for if you are able to score any 1970 silver dollars in a big lot. I know Coins Unlimited, one of my favorite coin shops, actually sells massive 100-piece lots of these Canadian nickel dollars, and they're only about $10 or $20 more than their face value. So about $120, and you can get 100 of these nickel dollars to search. And if you buy all 1970s, you may just be able to find yourself one of these counter-stamped coins. The Voyager dollar was a coin minted in Canada from 1935 to 1986 and initially featured 80% silver content until 1968. After the year 1968, a smaller nickel version circulated until the year 1987, when it was eventually replaced by the iconic loonie. Despite being discontinued, Voyager dollar coins maintain legal tender status. In 1968, after the 1967 Centennial Series, the design continued in pure nickel, marking the shift from silver. This transition also led to a reduced diameter from 36mm to 32mm, facilitating new minting processes. The series continued with occasional interruptions for circulating commemorative issues, notably in 1982 for the Constitution dollars and in 1984 for the Jacques Cartier dollar. The Constitution Act of 1982 was a vital component of Canada's constitution and facilitated the patriation process and introduced amendments to the British North America Act of 1867, renaming it the Constitution Act of 1867. It marked a pivotal moment by enacting the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, safeguarding Aboriginal rights, and also establishing procedures for constitutional conferences and outlining future amendment processes. In 1982, Canada gained full sovereignty and concluded with the proclamation signing by Queen Elizabeth II and Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau on April 17, 1982. Now, in the year 1982, they did release two different designs for the Canadian nickel dollars. They released the regular Voyager design, and then they also released this Commemorative Constitution Act Silver Dollar Commemorative. This is also the first time that the Royal Canadian Mint issued a commemorative and a Voyager dollar in the same year for circulation. The reverse design of the Constitution dollar draws inspiration from Robert Harris's painting, The Fathers of Confederation. Although the original painting perished in a fire in 1916, artist Rex Woods reconstructed a copy in 1968 with slight modifications, including the addition of 3 individuals. This iconic representation of the coin pays homage to Canada's constitutional history and commemorates the Fathers of Confederation. Now, one of the more notable errors that you can look for on a 1982 Constitution dollar is a rotated die error. The process of rotated coin dies, particularly in the context of the 1982 Constitution dollar, involves ensuring proper alignment of the dies in coin presses during the striking process. Errors can manifest when the dies experience offset, tilting, or rotation. Rotation errors specific to the 1982 dollar occur when the images on the obverse and the reverse dies are turned 180 degrees from their normal positions. These rotation errors contribute to the uniqueness and collectability of these coins as they deviate from the standard minting processes. So usually Canadian coins will come struck in metal alignment, which means that the obverse and reverse are both oriented in the same direction. But if you want to identify one of these rotated die varieties, then you want it to be in coin alignment, meaning that the obverse and reverse will be rotated 180 degrees from each other. This is usually the standard for American coins. Another interesting factor that is associated with these dollar coins is the thickness of the planchettes used to produce them. The majority of the 1982 Constitution dollars were struck on regular-sized nickel planchettes, while a small number were produced on a thinner planchette. Now, you can go mad trying to find accurate information about the origins of such varieties, but the most likely reasons for this to occur during the minting process are the following. Planchette variation. During the preparation of coin blanks, variations in thickness may occur due to factors like the composition of the metal or the minting equipment's settings. Some planchettes may be thinner than the standard thickness. Error in planchette feeding. Errors in the machinery responsible for feeding planchettes into the coin press can lead to variations in thickness. If thinner planchettes are mistakenly fed into the press, coins struck from these planchettes will exhibit thinner dimensions. Quality control issues. Issues in quality control mechanisms may result in the acceptance of planchettes that deviate from the intended specifications. If thinner planchettes are not identified and removed during quality checks, they could end up being used in the coin production process. Minting anomalies. Anomalies in the minting process, such as variations in pressure or temperature, could contribute to the creation of coins with non-standard thickness. These anomalies may be unintentional, resulting in unique and rare variations. And variability in metal composition. Variations in the composition of metal used for planchettes can lead to differences in physical characteristics of the coin, including the thickness. If there are any inconsistencies in the metal alloy, it may affect how the planchettes are struck. So the rare of the two different planchette varieties is the 1982 Constitution thin planchette. My suggestion to be able to identify one of these would be pretty simple, and that is to hold on to a standard 1982 nickel dollar and use that as a comparison. If you find any of these and it has the rotated die, and then you find that the planchette is a lot thicker when you compare and do an edge check with another standard 1982 dollar, then chances are you might have one of these rare thin planchette varieties as well. Now, the mintage figure for the 1982 Constitution dollar is 11,812,000. Some of the details and specifications: it is composed of 99.9% nickel, it has a weight of 15.62 grams, a diameter of 32.13 millimeters, it is magnetic, and it has a die-axis in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian, British, and Australian coins, but it does have that rotated die error that you can look for, and then it will be in coin alignment, which is the standard for American coins. Now, there's also a small jewel variety that you can look for on these coins, but it doesn't add much premium. If you want to be able to get the big bucks, you want to be able to find the thin planchette or a coin alignment version of this coin. So first we will start with the thin planchette in metal alignment. So this, the obverse and reverse, will both be oriented in the same direction. It will be like your standard Canadian coins, but it will have a thinner planchette. So I would compare the edge with another 1982 Constitution dollar. And if it looks like the planchette is significantly thinner, then you might have yourself a fairly rare coin. Now, there aren't any low-end values listed, but I would say that you could get a couple $100s if you do identify the thin planchette in metal alignment. The only value that is listed is an MS63 example, and it can be worth around $5,000. So this is one of the most rare and valuable of the Canadian nickel dollar series, and definitely a good one to look for. And then you can also look for the version of the thin planchette that is in coin alignment, meaning that the obverse and reverse will be rotated 180 degrees from each other, and it will have the same orientation as American coins. Now, if you can identify the coin alignment, and then it also has a thin planchette, it can be worth around $3,000 for an MS60 and all the way up to $5,000 for an MS63 example. If you found one of these and it's not in the greatest shape, I don't doubt that you can still probably get a couple $100s for them, especially considering that there aren't too many of these Voyager dollars that are super valuable. And then the last is going to be the most rare and valuable of these 1982 Constitution dollars, and that is the Constitution regular sized planchette in coin alignment. So this one is going to be like American coins. The obverse and reverse will be rotated 180 degrees. In terms of its value, it can be worth around $4,500 for an MS60, around $7,000 for an MS63, and all the way up to $15,000 for an MS66 example. If you did find one of these and it's on the lower end, I don't doubt that you could get anywhere from $500 to $1,000. A lot of people like to buy those 1948 silver dollars, but who knew that there was a nickel dollar that could be almost as valuable? From 1935 to 1986, the Voyager dollar was minted in Canada and put into circulation. The coin's composition was 80% silver up until the year 1968, and from 1968 until 1986, a smaller nickel version for widespread circulation was produced. The iconic loonie took the place of the Voyager dollar in 1987. However, the Voyager dollar coins still continue to be valid for use, much like all of Canada's retired coins. Following the 1967 Canadian Centennial Series, the Voyager dollar design was once again used starting in 1968, following the decision to debase Canada's currency system from silver to nickel. The coin was now struck in pure nickel composition. The diameter of the coin was decreased from 36 millimeters to 32 millimeters as a result of the switch to this tougher metal, since it made coin production much simpler. The last time the Voyager dollar was produced for collectors was in the year 1987, and the last time it was produced for circulation was in the year 1986. Now, we should briefly discuss foreign coins that are produced at the Canadian Mint. The Royal Canadian Mint is known for producing coins not only for Canada, but also for a variety of other countries. This practice is often referred to as contract coinage or foreign coin production, and here are some examples of the countries for which the Royal Canadian Mint has struck or produced coins: Bermuda, Barbados, Jamaica, Bahamas, Fiji, Cayman Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, Eastern Caribbean states, Cook Islands, and New Zealand. The Royal Canadian Mint has produced coins for New Zealand, as demonstrated by the 1985 Canadian Mule dollar, which was muled with a New Zealand obverse die, which is actually the coin that we are discussing in this video today. These examples demonstrate the international reach and reputation of the Canadian Mint for producing high-quality coins for countries all around the world. The Canadian Mint's involvement in foreign coin production helps these countries create beautifully designed coins and ensures the quality and security of their coinage. Accidentally striking Canadian coins on foreign planchettes is a rare but fascinating occurrence in the world of numismatics. This phenomenon typically happens due to errors or irregularities in the minting process. Here's a brief description of how this can actually occur. The first step is planchette acquisition. The minting process begins with the acquisition of planchettes, which are small, flat, round pieces of metal. Planchettes are typically sourced from specialized suppliers. In most cases, the mint intends to use planchettes made from a specific alloy or composition, such as copper-nickel for Canadian coins. Another step is plant inspection. Before the actual minting process begins, planchettes are inspected for quality and composition. This step is crucial to ensuring that the coins produced meet the specified standards. Planchettes that don't meet these standards are typically set aside for melting and recycling. Feeding and presses. Planchettes that pass inspection are fed into the coin presses, where they are struck with the design and details for the coin. Each coin press is set up for a specific denomination and composition as well as a particular design. Die chambers. Inside the coin press, there are die chambers that house the obverse and reverse designs. These dies have the design and inscriptions that are to be transferred onto the planchette. The dies exert a significant amount of pressure onto the planchette to create the coin's design. Sometimes due to errors or malfunctions in the planchette feeding system, foreign planchettes can find their way into coin presses. These foreign planchettes may have different compositions and designs intended for the coins from other countries. The striking process. When a foreign planchette is inadvertently fed into the press, it goes through the striking process just like a regular planchette. The high pressure from the dies causes the design and details from the Canadian coin dies to be transferred onto the foreign planchette. The result is a Canadian coin with the intended design but struck on this foreign planchette. This creates a unique and rare air coin known as a wrong planchette or also a mule coin. These coins are often highly sought after by collectors due to their rarity and unusual nature. Now, to be able to identify and differentiate between the regular 1985 and the New Zealand mule, you need to look for the following details. The reverse side of the coin displays a distinctive Canadian design that was commonly featured on the Canadian dollar coins until the year 1987. This design showcases a voyager or a man and a child inside of a canoe, paying homage to Canada's history of exploration and trade. There are no New Zealand motifs or inscriptions on the reverse side of the coin. Now, this error actually occurred at some point during the minting process when the dies intended for the New Zealand $1 coins were mistakenly paired with the Canadian dollar planchettes. This mismatch resulted in a small number of coins with the New Zealand obverse design on one side and the standard Canadian reverse design on the other side of the coin. The Canadian 1985 dollar coin muled with the New Zealand obverse is highly sought after by collectors due to its rarity and intriguing combination of Canadian and New Zealand elements. These air coins are relatively scarce and their value can vary significantly based on factors such as condition and also collector demand. In good condition, they can command a significant premium over their face value. If you do believe that you have one of these air coins, it is definitely advisable to have it authenticated and graded by a reputable coin grading service such as PCGS or NGC. Professional grading can provide assurance of authenticity, and they also assign a numerical grade based on the 70-point Sheldon scale, which can severely impact the coin's value in the collector market. You also want to be super careful of counterfeit examples of coins like this. If you are buying one of these off of a site like eBay or on an online auction and it is not graded and in a slab, I would definitely be skeptical. You can definitely find coins like this one or even the 1944 Tomback and other Canadian air coins that there are counterfeit examples of out there. They are very cheap, only $1 or $2 to buy online, and you can make a huge profit if you only pay $1 or $2 for a coin like that, and then you sell it for the buku dollars that some of these legitimate examples are worth. So you definitely want to do your due diligence. The following specifications are for the 1985 mule dollar. If any of these are off, it might indicate that it is not a legitimate or authentic example. Now, the year on the coin is 1985. The denomination is $1. It is composed of nickel. The weight is 15.6 grams. It has a diameter of 32.1 millimeters. The shape of the coin is round. The edge is reeded. It is magnetic, and the die axis is in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian, Australian, and British coins. Even this mule is actually in metal alignment. Now, when it comes to value, I would definitely say that this 1985 mule dollar could be considered a holy grail of the Voyager series from 1968 until 1967. There aren't too many of them that are worth a lot of money, especially over the $1,000 mark, but this is definitely a good one to look for. You can actually go to banks here in Canada and ask them if they have any silver dollars. Sometimes collectors will actually turn their nickel silver dollars in, or someone will inherit a collection and they will turn them into the bank for face value. And then if you are lucky and they happen to have any, you can actually buy them off the bank for face value. I've been able to get close to $100 at one time from a bank in Voyager dollars, and it is definitely a good way to be able to search for errors like this. Now, in terms of value on the low end, it can be worth around $6,400 for an AU50. So even if you found one of these coins and it is beat up and put through the meat grinder, you're going to be talking $500 to $1,000 because it is so rare and struck on a foreign planchette. You just don't come across examples like this too often. Now, when you start getting into the MS region, it can be worth around $9,800 for an MS60 and all the way up to $14,700 for an MS63, which, as we know right now, is the highest graded known example currently. If you were to find one and it scored any higher, you could easily be talking a $25,000 to $50,000 coin, depending on what kind of grade it gets. Canadian pattern or trial coins stand as unique and distinctive pieces that are crafted by the Canadian Mint as integral components of the coinage development process. These coins play a crucial role in assessing and refining various elements such as the design, metal composition, weight, and durability before the mass production of a new currency or coinage changes. The journey of creating new coinage initiates with the meticulous design phase. Talented artists and engravers collaborate to conceive the initial coin design, which undergoes multiple revisions to meet the artistic, historical, and technical standards set by the Canadian Mint. The Mint will also experiment with different metal compositions, exploring alloy mixes and surface finishes like matte or proof-like. Once the optimal design and metal composition are determined, a limited number of trial coins are minted using specialized equipment. These trial coins then undergo rigorous quality control processes to ensure that they align with the Mint's exacting standards. The next phase involves subjecting these coins to comprehensive testing, including assessments of durability and wear resistance, to guarantee their ability to withstand the rigors of circulation. Mint officials and experts meticulously review the trial coins, making any necessary adjustments or modifications. Upon approval, the Mint can proceed with the mass production of the finalized coin design, ultimately entering it into general circulation. Encountering Canadian pattern or trial coins in everyday transactions is an exceedingly rare occurrence. These coins are specifically crafted for internal purposes and are often retained by the Canadian Mint for reference, archival collections, or occasionally made available to collectors during special events. The primary enthusiasts seeking these coins include collectors, numismatists, and historians who value them for their unique designs, metal compositions, and also the insights that they provide into the coinage development process. For those curious about the possibility of stumbling upon such coins in your pocket change, it's very important to note that the chances are pretty much slim to nil. However, if a coin appears unusual or deviates from the standard circulation coinage designs, it may be worth having it examined by an expert or professional numismatist, as it could potentially be a rare or pattern trial piece. So now that I've given you some context on how these coins come into existence and how incredibly rare they truly are, what do you say we discuss the coin that you are all here to find out about, and that is the 1964 commemorative pattern tin dollar. Now you might be asking why I am referring to this coin as a tin dollar and not a silver dollar, and that is because a few of these Holy Grail trial coins were produced in a tin composition. It is not uncommon for mints to experiment with metal compositions, and it would seem like they were considering producing the Canadian dollar coins in tin around the year 1964. The reverse of this coin features the typical commemorative Charlottetown, Quebec conference design, but the obverse of this piece is incredibly unique. Instead of bearing the effigy of the reigning monarch, as is the norm for circulating Canadian coinage, the face of the obverse on this pattern piece is almost blank, except for a small strange symbol near the center. Now, I wish I could give you guys some more information on the obverse design. I'm not too sure what it represents, but it almost honestly looks like an old Mexican pillar dollar or a counter stamp mark. Either the Canadian Mint was considering the possibility of removing the effigy from the silver dollar, or possibly they just used this to differentiate the trial or pattern 1964 tin dollar. Although this coin is not considered a proof strike, the relief on the reverse design for this coin is much higher than in the standard 1964 silver dollar. This factor, along with the unique obverse, sets it apart and adds to its intrigue and allure in the numismatic world. Now, some of the details and specifications for this coin, if any of these are off at all, it may indicate that this is not a legitimate example. This 1964 $10 should have a weight of 26.9 grams and a diameter of 35.5 millimeters. The edge of this coin will actually be plain instead of reeded, which would also be a major visual differentiator and sets it apart from the common issue 1964 silver dollars. As I mentioned previously, the reverse should feature the Charlottetown, Quebec commemorative conference design with a higher relief than the standard issue, and the obverse of this piece should be blank with a small marking or symbol in the center. Usually pattern or trial coins will receive an SP or specimen designation if they were sent off to a reputable grading company such as PCGS or NGC, but there are a few cases like this 1964 $10 where it will actually receive the standard MS grade. Charlton Catalogs classifies this coin as DC13, and if you were to find one of these and it scored between an MS63 to MS64, then it can be worth up to $50,000. There are very few known examples of this coin, with one actually being featured in the National Currency Collection. As is the case with most trial or pattern coins, there are usually only a few made and they are usually disposed of or scooped up pretty quickly by mint employees, but that doesn't mean that you can't find one of these, especially if you are able to find an uncirculated bag or roll of Canadian 1964 silver dollars. It's also a great idea to keep your eyes open on online auctions and sites like eBay, as sometimes people can sell things that they don't always know exactly what they have. There is a chance that someone might think that they have a coin with post-mint damage and can sell this for near silver melt, and if you can pick one of these up and actually identify it as the correct coin, you can make a huge profit. Chances are it's probably going to be a counterfeit if you are buying it off an online auction site or off of a site like Wish or Alibaba, but at the same time, it is always good to be armed with a little bit of knowledge, especially when you are dealing with coins like this 1964 trial or pattern $10. The 1964 Canadian silver dollars are fairly common issues. They make quite a few of them. I've actually owned many of them myself, so this is definitely a good one to keep your eyes out for, and another incredible coin that deserves its place in the annals of Canadian numismatic history. Now, what do you say we get into the coin that we all came here for, the King of Canadian Coins, or the King of Silver Dollars, as it is commonly referred to as? The 1948 King George VI Canadian dollar is an extremely highly sought-after coin in Canadian numismatics. It is the rarest and most valuable regular issue coin in the series of Canadian silver dollars minted from 1935 to 1967. This coin has an extremely limited mintage and holds a significant place in Canadian coin history. The 1948 silver dollar looks similar, if not identical, to the other King George VI silver dollar coins of the era, except for the date 1948 is the only thing that makes it stand out and adds the value to the coin. It only has a silver content of 80%. It is not even made of sterling silver like some of the earlier Canadian coinage. The obverse of the coin was designed by T.H. Paget, while its reverse was designed by Emmanuel Hahn and features a Canadian voyager and Native American cruising in a canoe under the northern lights on an evergreen traced lake. However, there is one minor and important change that affected the 1948 Canadian dollars. Production of the Canadian dollar was suspended in the year 1940 due to Canada's involvement in World War II. When the war ended in 1945, there was social upheaval and brewing in India, which was still under British rule. India gained independence on August 15, 1947, which affected the production of Canadian dollars. The new dies reflecting India's independence had not yet been prepared at the Royal Canadian Mint, so production of 1947 dated coinage continued into the year 1948, with those predated silver dollars containing that small maple leaf to the bottom right-hand side of the 7. Now, although the 1947 Canadian silver dollars can be extremely rare and valuable depending on which variety you have and also the grade, the Canadian Mint didn't start producing silver dollars with the date of 1948 until about halfway through the year. Also, once they received the new equipment and dies to start producing the new coins, there was a delay in production which affected the overall number of coins made. Only 18,780 1948 Canadian silver dollars were ever produced, including a few special coins made in specimen sets as well. Even coins that have been circulated or scrubbed with steel wool are extremely rare and can still fetch $1,000 today, even in the worst conditions. So some of the specifications for this coin, if any of these are off, it might indicate that it is a counterfeit. When a coin is usually this rare and has such a limited mintage, it will usually be pretty common for counterfeits to be produced, and I can guarantee you there has been a fair number of 1948 Canadian silver dollar counterfeits produced over the years. If they're pumping out the Canadian toonie in counterfeits, then they have definitely made a few of these and tried to pass them off and sell them at coin shops or maybe pawn shops over the years. But the specifications for the 1948 Canadian silver dollar, it is composed of 80% silver. It has a portrait of King George VI on the obverse of the coin. It should have a weight of 23.33 grams, a diameter of 36.06 millimeters, a thickness of 2.8 millimeters. It is in metal alignment like all Canadian coins come. The shape is round and the edge is reeded. Now let's discuss the values for what has to be definitely one of the most valuable silver dollars, not only in Canada, but the entire world. This can be worth a lot of money, even on the low end. The 1948 Canadian silver dollar can fetch you a minimum of $588 if it scores a VG8, which is basically the bottom of the Sheldon scale. So that is a coin that has seen a fair amount of wear and circulation and has been put through the meat grinder, and you can still get almost $600 for it. If you guys are ever wondering where to sell your coins, my suggestion is to find your nearest local coin shop, take your coins in to be appraised there. I get asked that all the time. Where can I sell my coins? If I have this coin, who will buy it off of me? Local coin shops are the best option to go, or auction sites are another good option. Now, on the high end, the 1948 Canadian silver dollar can be worth $2,220 for an MS-60 example. And this bad boy can be worth all the way up to $61,700 for an MS-66, which, as we know right now, is the highest graded example. If you're able to find one of these and it did get the MS-67 attribution, you could easily be talking a $100,000 coin. Now, the Canadian Mint did not officially start producing proof sets until the year 1953, so there are no Canadian 1948 silver proof-like dollars, but they did produce specimen sets in the year 1948. These 1948 specimen dollars are extremely rare and valuable, but not nearly as valuable as the circulation silver dollars. So if you aren't picky and you're looking to fill out a hole in your collection, the Canadian 1948 specimen silver dollar might be a great option, and honestly, the finish and strike quality on it is usually much better than the circulation strikes anyways, so you're honestly paying less money for a better coin in terms of the 1948 specimen silver dollar. In terms of value, it can be worth around $2,500 for a specimen 60 example, which is on the low end of the SP scale. It can be worth around $4,900 for an SP63 example, and all the way up to $13,500 for an SP66. If it got the SP67 designation, it could easily push $20,000. If it got a cameo attribution as well, it could definitely add a premium to the coin.